Good afternoon. How is everybody doing?
It's evening for the rest of us. Well, a lot of us, except for those from across the big pond. But,
Well, yeah, the ones that are across the pond this morning. So good morning.
your intro music cuts off just about the time I'm really getting my head bobbing and going with it, man. It's like, come on, man, I need more. All right.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I had it like tonight. I was just I was doing like
Yeah.
this, and then it just cut off. But I've also been on the flip side of that where I was sitting there, and a show had an intro, and it just lasted and lasted and lasted.
All right. All right.
So, hey, Sean made it on time.
Yeah. Sean's on
Half
time.
a half a day.
Ethan's here. All right, man.
Growing a tiny screen.
Tiny one.
Is he talking about his cell phone or is he talking
He must
about?
be watching on a cell phone. Yeah. We must be really tiny on the screen. It's all right.
Let's see here.
So you said something about talking about feed, right? And
Yeah,
um,
I mean, we.
you know, well, so this past week the subject came up with one of our, you know, normal one of our regular listeners,
Hmm.
right? And he didn't sign in yet, but he was asking me what my regiment was for feeding the raw liver, okay,
Yeah.
during the keep, and so. All right. So early keep depends on how long your keep is. Right. For the guys doing a 3 week keep, you do your keep feed. Um, don't do that. You about freak me out. Don't do that. All right. So anyway, you do, 3 week keep, you do a week on your regular keep. And then week two, you start gradually introducing some ground up raw liver. Right. And, you start with like a teaspoonful and then work that up to a tablespoon. And every time you increase the raw liver, you cut back on the grain. Okay. So that final week, you're feeding that like a heaping, you know, tablespoon that you'd eat with of raw liver, and you've cut your keep feed back to about 2 ounces. And, um, it gives them a lot of, it's excellent protein. It's running 30% protein. It's a good way to help control your moisture, right? Because it is wet and it's full of B vitamins, right? I mean, the liver is just insanely high with vitamins and a lot of B vitamins, B complexes, right? So it's got, you know, now in my mind, this is my theory. Nobody write this down and say, God said, right? But um, to me, it makes them bloodthirsty, right? Because the liver is so full of blood, right?
Mm.
It gives them an appetite for blood. Okay, you're kind of teaching them that blood is a good thing, and so you'd cut it out. You probably wouldn't feed it on the last day
Yeah.
before you go to the show. Because all those B vitamins will actually calm the bird down. And you're going to get this false sense of calm. Like the bird's not going to be really high strung. It's not going to appear to be overly alert and anxious. It still is, but it's not going to look that way. Right. And, but yeah, so he asked, I like beef, calf liver, pork liver. You're never going to hear me say feed the same animal back to the same animal. But you know what? If you want to use chicken liver, use chicken liver. Human liver, probably most humans I know, because of their diets or their behavioral patterns, is probably so toxic that I wouldn't feed a human liver to them. So I would stick with either beef
Yeah,
or
probably
pork.
not.
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, I'm in.
And Dwayne brings up this point, and I've heard this too. Raw liver and gunpowder.
Uh, you know, now the old timers. This is probably back when gunpowder had a really high level of sulfur in it.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand that, right? And I'm not opposed, but there's other ways to get your sulfur. Uh, you
Buy
know,
some
but
sulfur.
yeah, um, the old timers used to worm, animals with chewing tobacco, like some good old beech nut or Levi Garrett longleaf, right? They get a big old handful of it, shove it down a horse's throat or a cow's throat or whatever, right? And force them to eat it. And that was a good way to worm them, right? Yeah, well, the insects can't deal with the nicotine. I mean, look, tobacco products have been used as insecticides for 100 years or more, right? This ain't new. So, fella, if you could find tobacco dust, after they're done processing it at R.J. Reynolds or Philip Morris, right? Then, you could use that as a wormer replacement. But it's just, but tobacco's been sprayed with everything under the sun. So, do you really want to put those chemicals in there, right? So,
Yeah. Look, here's one thing I wanted to see what you think. So he placed an order a while back,
okay.
and it's USPS. They say that it's in transit between locations, but they've been saying that for like 2 weeks now. And he filed a lost package claim, and they denied it.
Really?
Yeah, it's
And you check the tracking too, and you can't find it.
well, it says it's between destination, like in transit. It
Well, I don't
doesn't
know
say
where.
exactly where it is.
Well, I don't know where you sent it, but I can tell you early on in making the supplement days, if the same person, repeatedly is buying, and somebody figures out what's in that box, it just comes up missing, and it goes to somebody else's flock of chickens somewhere, right? Um, had a serious issue trying to ship into Mexico. As
Yeah.
soon as they figured out what it was, right? And that was the first time. It never made it. You know, Somebody Googles it, figures out what it is, and yep, it's off to somebody else's flock. So,
Send me a message on Facebook. We'll get that figured out. Um, because that, like, I hate that. I really hate that they denied the claim
yeah,
because, yeah, that sucks. Can I give my Mexican vitamin pills with the conditioning feed, or that would overdo it?
yeah, that's gonna. I mean, look, any formula that I put together, like the conditioning feed or any other, I'm pretty much maxing out the vitamins, right? So you start adding other vitamin supplements, whether it's red cell, Mexican vitamin pills, or anything else, you're rolling the dice. You may push them over the edge, right? Um, but either the supplements or the feeds that we're putting together, I'm running pretty much a red line on that. So I would not add anything extra. I just wouldn't do it. But
And here's a comment that I won't repeat, but I will highlight, and I will say that there's very little chance of argument.
PD asked about deer liver. Yep, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Actually, of all the livers out there, if you could hoard enough deer liver, that's my first choice, right? Because they're not being fed regular feeds. They're not being living in a feedlot. They're not
I
being
mean,
given
everything
like,
they eat is
yeah,
good and natural, and lots of it, because deer meat is
yeah,
really lean, period.
yeah.
So
So if you can get
that would be
enough
a
deer
good
liver,
excuse to go hunting.
yeah, I mean, I keep all my deer livers and hearts for my dog. But yeah, good, clean stuff, man. So,
Yeah, I think I said something a couple weeks ago about my wife opening the freezer here at the warehouse and seeing these big old liver in it. And I was like, "Hey, at least it's not at home."
yeah,
Guys, I want to mention this real quick right here at the beginning of the show. If you're low or anything else on your supplement, if you use the code loyal20 for the next 24 hours, you get 20% off. Let me double check that code and make sure it is active right now. LOYAL 20 gets you 20% off the Show Pro supplement, the Jitter Juice, or the freshly back in stock Rapido Red. So my maker of those had some issues. They're back. So any of those items, loyal 20 for the next 24 hours gets you 20% off.
Now, listen, guys, this is only for people who are listening to this show, watching or listening to this show. This is not going to get posted on any website, any group site, anywhere else. You're not going to see it anywhere else. So if you didn't watch this show, you don't know about Loyal 20, and he can't go any further. And actually 20% off of like a 40-pound bag shipped to California, the old man's going to lose some money, right? Because, yeah, there ain't that much in there. But it's all right. It's all right.
It's for the people that watch the show.
Right. And that's why we called it. That's why we call it Loyal 20, right?
Now, I will say, if you don't watch the show live, obviously you're going to miss out unless you hit it like tonight or tomorrow. You got 24 hours. If you're past that, Turkey 10 just had a nice little ring to it for Thanksgiving. So you can take advantage of Turkey 10 and save you 10%.
But you ain't going to see 20% off again because it's cutting it too thin. But we appreciate you guys being here. And so take that Loyal 20, get ahead, put it in the freezer. You ain't going to get 20% off at least for another year. So.
Yeah. I love it when our friends send me text messages with their little eyeballs saying they're watching. I love it. Hey, look, we've got some folks that anonymity is key for obvious reasons, and that's why they send us messages on Facebook or text message or whatever, and we love them too.
Julian, tallow, if it's made right, is actually shelf or room stable at room temperature pretty much indefinitely, right? Yeah. So if you get it rendered and cooked right, it's not an issue. Just keep it in a covered container, put it in a pail. You can put the lid back on, and it is awesome stuff.
I would recommend you to get one of the roasting pans that you can just plug in and it heats itself, like to roast a turkey or something. Put it out in the barn.
Dwayne asked
got in trouble for that.
Dwayne asked if roasting soybeans for $2.50 for 30 minutes is long enough. No, it's not. It's $2.70 for 20 minutes, but the temperature didn't get up high enough. You're getting close, but actually for chickens and pigs, I like it to get closer to 300 for 20 to 25 minutes just to be safe.
Fire roast them.
Yeah, 5 Nights says he eats the deer hearts. I like the deer hearts too, but I got a really special dog. Ask Carey. He's been here. She's very unique. So I slice them up. I put them through the dehydrator so they're tough like jerky. And I give her one about every night, about 6:30, just to give her a slice. And she does what I tell her to do.
Look, if a dog could have autism, it would be his dog. You could set your clock by that dog's schedule. If you need to know what time it is at night when she wants to go to the bathroom, you can set your clock by that. But she's also an extremely loyal dog and a very loving dog. So I get it.
And don't walk in the door without me standing there letting you in. We're going to have a problem. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't
yeah.
recommend that either.
Yeah, she has some PTSD from previous events. So, yeah.
You grind them up and mix them with the
Yeah.
rooster mix, or do you make a separate kind of feed with the liver?
No. Whatever you're feeding through the keep, whatever your feed regimen is now, grain, whatever your grain mix is that you're planning on using, but you gradually start cutting that grain back. Because look, the liver will break down and pass through the system quicker than grains will, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're starting to time out, like when they're going to dump and clean them out and get them where you want them, right? Liver comes out a whole lot faster than grains do, right? And so, that last week, you're stepping up the liver to, like I said, you're getting up to about a heaping tablespoon. And you're down to like 1.5, 2 ounces max of grain mix. And then the last few days, you're less on your grain mix because you're trying to time them and get them empty. So, but yeah, just grind it up, mix it in, or I just like to just flop it on top, right? You put the grain in, flop it on top and let them eat through it. So if they've never seen the liver before, some roosters, they're going to stand there and look at you for a minute until they take a beak full of it. And then once they get a taste of it, they're in. Some are just weird that way. They don't like change. They'll adapt. Don't worry about it. Just they'll figure it out.
I can't blame them. I don't like change a whole lot.
No. You're not even that old yet.
So, yeah. What else do we have here?
John joined us. He's running a little late, but he made it. So, let's see. Yeah. What's 1 or 2 grains that that have little to no benefit for birds on maintenance and developing stages? Actually, there's very few, but if you're going to make me pick, I personally would not feed millet to my birds. Not a fan. You can't feed cottonseed to birds or cottonseed products, right? It's going to make them sick. Make their livers work overtime. Let's see, what else is out there that I wouldn't feed to? Yeah, I like cracked corn, whole wheat, barley, oats, Milo. They all have their own purpose and benefit, right? So the more grains you can actually put in your grain mix, as long as you do it in the right proportions, the more grains you can put in the mix, the better. I just, I avoid things like not a fan of whole flax because I don't know if the bird actually breaks it down in the gizzard well. A little bit's okay, but millet's the only one that really gives me issues that I'm not a fan of. So if I had to pick one, it would for sure be millet. If I picked the second one, it'd probably be whole flax because A, it's overpriced, and B, the seed is so small and so hard that I'm not sure that the gizzard's actually breaking it down. You'd have to for sure be feeding grit to get any benefit out of flax.
Yeah, because they're tiny. I mean, one of my kids was eating them, and I'm like, "What are you eating this for?" Oh, it's really nutritious. Is your body going to break that down? What benefits to tallow versus lard if rendered at home?
Really not a benefit one over the other. The key point being is it's an animal fat, right? And the bird's metabolism can utilize animal fats better than it can certain grain or most grain seed oil fats, right? They can utilize the seed oil fats fine, but they get a lot more out of the tallow and the lard, right? Just it's the breakdown of polyunsaturated, saturated, unsaturated, all that other stuff. But the polyunsaturateds of tallow and lard are exceptional. So if you got access to tallow and lard, I mean, save your bacon grease someday and put some of that on the chicken feed and watch them go ape shit for it, because man, they can smell that stuff for a long ways off, right?
Yeah, like he says here, he had a couple birds that were really picky eaters, but then he started mixing the show pro and lard, and they cleaned the cup.
Yeah, I mean, the first day or two they might look at you a little funny, but once they get a taste of it, and once they get the feeling of it, what it does for their body, yeah, they're all in, right?
They'll look
So
at you crazy if you don't give it to them.
yeah, I get those reports all the time, right? I ran out of Rapido, I ran out of Show Pro, and tried to feed my birds. They looked at me like, "Hey, man, where's the good shit?"
Yeah. Deer
Yeah,
hearts cooked down with cornbread dumplings is his man. Y'all can have that.
I don't know. I never tried it, so it might be good.
Is there any difference between adding apple cider vinegar into the feed versus water? Like, is one more beneficial than the other? And what's your favorite way to worm?
So everything I have observed, right, is the apple cider vinegar has more effect when it's in the water versus in the feed. You seem to get about twice as much benefit out of it in the water as when you put it in the feed. And here's why: because when you add it to the feed neutralizes a lot of the acids from the apple cider vinegar and absorb it, right? So it is partially breaking down the feed before the bird eats it, which is fine. But the blood cleansing, blood thinning effect and aiding in digestion is reduced when you go in the feed versus the water, right? So, yes, everything I've seen in the water is definitely better than in the feed. Um, you ain't gonna like my answer on worming, but like, because I'm a pretty much all natural kind of guy, here's the things that are going to keep you out of trouble for worms, right? Make sure you're always feeding the right size grit. Okay. Make sure your animal diet always has at least 10% oats by weight. Okay. Because the hull of the oat, when it gets digested in the gizzard, it breaks down into these little pointy things that look like swords or spears. And as they pass through the gut wall, they're a natural irritant to the internal parasites laying along that gut wall. Now, I would run some copper sulfate in the water maybe once every 3 months, a quarter teaspoon per gallon of drinking water. That'll help you out. Dwayne's mix using the red pepper flake and the oregano flakes and things like that are also going to help you out. He adds that to his oil and then he puts it in his feed. So I kind of go at it from a natural standpoint, right? And if I gotta, I just keep working up and escalating the strength. I haven't said this before on the show, so take notes, right? But the outer green hull of a black walnut, okay, that puffy part before that outer, if you collect those and you bust them off the nut and you dry them good, lay them out where they can get dried, not rot, and grind those up. Black walnut hull is a phenomenal natural wormer, and you can just literally sprinkle some on the feed. There's not a way to measure it, and don't get carried away. It's not a teaspoon's worth. It's not a half a teaspoon's worth. It's literally put it in a spice jar, a couple
It is.
shakes on top of their feed and go.
Yeah.
But the you know, the tannin content in that outer hull or husk of the black walnut is extremely high, and internal parasites, worms, I mean, insects in general can't stand it, right? So, just natural ways to fight off worms. And I mean, if they get out of control and you're losing the battle, then you got to reach for something like ivermectin, fenbenzolol, something like that, right? But with some good management, some good, herbal remedies, you should never have to worm a chicken.
Shouldn't. And some people do use it as a way to cheat when they trying to empty one out.
That's true. I mean, if you're trying to reset the clock, if you're trying to reset the cycle of the bird, if you're trying to reset that 21-day cycle and worm them right before you put them in the 3-week keep, and you can. So if you hit them with a hard dose of antibiotics and you hit them with a hard dose of wormer, you reset their biological timer, right? So that works for some guys. They've had some excellent success with it. I'm not saying I recommend that. I'm just telling you that does occur.
Yep. Let's see here. We've got some others. Scrambled eggs in coconut oil for biddies.
Raw eggs with a little coconut oil for biddies. Don't cook that shit. Come on, man. You're losing too much nutrition.
You can't spoil them right away.
Well, you can scramble them, just don't cook them. So maybe that's what he's saying, right? If you take, it takes about 1 egg for every 25 biddies, and you whip them up really good, and mix it with a small amount of biddy feed, and put a little coconut oil in there. And it's a really good way to boost their immune system. Gives them a really nice, gives them a really nice protein. Their immune system's really developing in the first 2 weeks, right? The big bumps are in the first 2 weeks. So I would do it like every 3 to 4 days. So 4 times in the first 2 weeks. And like I said, you only need 1 egg for every 25 birds.
Yeah, so that's not a whole lot in the whole realm of things.
Yeah.
And it's very, very, very nutritious for them.
So, PD, 10-pound bag of supplement, you only add 1 pound, pound and a quarter per 50-pound bag of feed, right? So, you're only 10-pound bag will treat, what do we figure, 450 to 500 pounds of feed?
Yeah, because you use a 40-pound with a ton. We have some people that have their feed mixed up at a feed mill by the ton, and they just toss a whole bag in with the mix before the pellets shoot out.
Yep. Dwayne, I'll take all the catfish livers, all the fish livers you want to feed to chicken, because they are outstanding, right? Well, I mean, depends on where you got your flathead and how many contaminants are in the water, but I think we're okay. As long as the flathead don't glow in the dark when you pull it out of the water, we're okay. So yeah, catfish livers, good stuff, man. Feed it to the chickens. I wouldn't eat it, but I don't eat liver, period. Rooster, there are no stupid questions, right? And if somebody here in the comments gives you shit, we'll ban them, bar them, and kick their ass out. You ask anything you want to ask, brother.
Yep.
Just tried to order some Show Pro supplement in Hawaii, exempt, but I put Loyal 20. It says invalid. So what's Sean gonna do?
Sean is going to stand by.
Okay.
Just
You gonna fix him up? All right.
and try it again. I thought I had the Guam and Hawaii group added, but apparently not.
Okay.
Should be good.
2 month. Man, how are you going to train a 2-month-old Belinois? It's going to take a while, Julian. I mean, they're great dogs and they want to learn and they do a great job. I mean, they're great dogs. But
Yeah.
at 2 months old, he may not quite be ready.
Mm-mm.
You're going to need to keep him harnessed, get a harness on him and leashed, and probably, one of those soft muzzle things, so he can't, either that or you take him to your meanest Gamefowl rooster you got and let him kick the crap out of him. So he'll learn his lesson.
I mean, I would say at 2 months, I would keep the dog with me at all times when he's around the birds.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, I don't. There could be a whole debate on using a shot collar at 2 months. My mine, I kept my Pyrenees with me, and my Pyrenees came from parents that live on a game farm, and I kept her with me for the first couple months, and after that, my two dogs rule the yard, and the only time they've left the yard was there was a coyote that got too close.
I would think if he works the dog with it, when he's out there working the birds and he brings it along, every day, with a harness and a leash, right? Keep it under control. As smart as the Belgian Malinois is, I would think by 4 or 5 months old, he
Yeah.
should be fine. Just like you said, like you did with your Pyrenees. Now the Pyrenees is more of it's instinctual is to be a guard dog and protect something, right?
Yeah.
Malinois is not exactly in that same realm. It'll protect things just fine, but usually more along the lines of humans, versus flocks and chickens and things.
Now, with that, you could also, if you have a hen that has some chicks, introduce that dog to those chicks in a controlled area, and once it's used to the chicks, and it can be delicate with those, then it will probably be delicate with the rest, and not really want to play as much. The biggest problem that I have seen with dogs and birds is the dog hadn't got the play out of them yet. And they want to play, and you got a 60, 80, 125 pound dog wanting to play with a 5 pound chicken. There's going to be a problem.
Yeah. Well, until
So,
he meets the wrong chicken, right? If you get the wrong chicken, then it's.
now that is
Yeah.
true.
Dwayne brings up a good point that the tallow and the lard will also, help with crop bound birds.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it should.
Let's see. What would be a good point feed? How long would you feed it? And would you carbo?
There's mixed. There's a lot of opinions on the carbo loading. Me personally, I'm not necessarily the fan of carbo loading. And here's the thing, and we're all going to do this on Thursday. Well, those of us in the U.S. who celebrate Thanksgiving, you ever eat that really big meal with lots of carbs? What happens about an hour to two later, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, you
You
just
ready for
want to
bed?
take a nap. You're ready to take a nap, right? So when you come down off of the carbs, right, and you don't, and every creature's different. So when you come off those carbs, you're going to hit a low spot. So timing the carbo load with when it's your turn to show, in my mind, is really tough to do. Whereas if I get the bird burning and living off of fat through a healthy liver, it's kind of like carnivore or the keto diet, then they are much more consistent, right? Now, a few years back, I worked with Douglas and we come up with a point feed, right? It's a 22% show feed. Um, we reduced the fiber. We cut the oats back really hard because, fiber hangs up in the gut, right? Hangs up in the gizzard and it holds moisture. So we reduced the amount of oats in there. There's still a little bit, right? And it was designed as a 3-week feeding, 3-week keep, right? Because that's what he had learned through Ratliff. Everybody, I'm hearing 3-week keeps, I'm hearing 2-week keeps, I'm hearing 1-week keeps. So it really depends on what what your program is. But yeah, good point feed. I'm thinking it's going to be around 22%, 5% fat. Keep your fiber down at like 3 to 4, and you're feeding 3 ounces a day, and you're gradually working. You're going to stay at the 3 ounces right through the first 2.5 weeks, and then you're going to work down to nothing, where you're feeding, maybe a teaspoon or two, the day before, and hopefully the bird's got enough condition that he's living on it just fine.
Yeah, I think the carbo load thing, that's, if you can time it, then great. If you can't, it's gonna bite you in the butt.
Yeah, it depends on what share you're going for as well, right? Like in the Philippines, they don't carbo load, right?
Mm-mm.
Well, my friends in the Philippines don't carbo load, right?
Yeah,
They're pretty much feeding them the same all the way through, and then the last 2 days, when they're trying to get dry them out and point them, they're reducing the amount of
they're
feed
reducing
down
the
to,
amounts. Yeah,
yeah, you're only talking 20 to 30 grams, 3/4 to 1 ounce of feed, and usually not within 12 hours of the show. So that's what
see
I've learned.
that's what they do in Puerto Rico as well.
Yeah,
Well, if they did that in Puerto Rico,
yeah,
that would
exactly.
be the alleged method that they would use, from what I have heard. Yeah. I mix about 3 gallons of feed, 3-part pellet, 1-part grain conditioner. I use sardines and olive oil, 1 small can, maybe enough to help.
Is 1 can of sardines enough to help?
Oh, yeah.
Um, well, okay. So 3 gallons of feed,
That's like 12.5 pounds.
it's not a
He's
lot
probably
of
got about 50
sardines.
birds.
Yeah. I mean, is it enough to help? It's doing something, right? Um, See, 3 gallons of feed is going to be about 15 pounds. Fish meal should be almost a half a pound. So you'd need almost 3 cans of sardines to really see the difference. 2 to 3. I mean, partly it's doing something, right? I'm not saying it's not helping, right? But to really bring out the performance of the bird, you'd be feeding more like 2 to 3 cans of sardines and olive oil and all.
Let's see.
Brian skinned out one of his hens after she stepped in a steel trap. A lot of bright yellow fat. All right. So partly time of year, right? When the days start getting shorter, the instinct of a chicken is to store fat, right? Knowing it's going into shorter daylight in winter. So it is a little bit normal. But when you say she had a lot of yellow fat, you're feeding too much corn. But on the inside and the outside, she probably had too much. And if you wanted to guess weight wise, how much fat do you think she had? Now, if she had 2 or 3 ounces, that's not a lot and that's not abnormal. If you think she had a half a pound, that's way too much, and she did not molt correctly and burn off that extra fat during the molt. So, just my 2 cents worth.
Yeah.
Got a 5-gallon bucket of deer fat and trim. Plan on rendering down and adding it to the feed. Took a bird out today because it started to stumble. Got lazy. Luckily enough, it was a free barn rooster. But 5-gallon bucket of deer fat, great idea. So render it down, and when you get the cracklings out of there, don't be afraid to feed the cracklings to the birds either. When you're skimming out, the parts that aren't true liquid, they'll eat those. No need to waste them.
Here's one. I got 2 yellow leg strains of birds. The stag's legs are bleaching out, just about white. Is there something I can feed them to bring them back yellow? My customers expect yellow legs. Yeah, you can't really do a yellow-legged hatch. It's white-legged.
Well, okay. So I don't know what Sean's feeding, right? So don't shoot me. But so a lot of the commercial feed manufacturers out there shift their feed formulas depending on time of year and what they can buy, relatively inexpensive. So if they have shifted from using a lot of corn to using a lot of wheat or barley or oats, well, they're not using oats because oats are really expensive. But if they've shifted to another grain, or if they've increased the amount of wheat middlings in there, right, there's not the yellow from the corn to support that color. So you may need to change feed. And Sean's in Hawaii, so I don't know how you're going to feed like alfalfa. Start getting some corn back into their diet, get them on some green grass, things like that will help, right? You can start getting some of that color back. It's about all you can do. But I'm thinking that your feed supplier changed their formula and you're getting a lot more byproducts or cheaper grains in there, and that's why you're losing your color.
Yeah, that's the disadvantages of them putting grain products.
Yeah, they can
instead
use
of
whatever they want.
listing what the grains actually are.
Kiku has a good point. He recently discovered that seed oils, the majority of vegetable oils, don't have a lot of, they have little, depending on which one you get, right, have little benefit, to humans. So what would be the benefit to the bird? Well, same thing. I mean, they're still getting the benefit of fat, right? But they're not utilizing them as well as they could. And that's why you hear me talking about tallow, lard, animal oils are going to be way better. If you've got to go into, commercial oils, that's where the coconut and the olive are way better than like your soybean, your canola, your sunflower oils, etc. So, there's a hierarchy of oils based on their, saturated and unsaturated fats. You can look it up and find it, and then, you can make your best decision from there. But Kiku brings up a really good point, and he's 100% right. Now, they're still getting some benefit from the seed oils. They're just not getting as much as they should, right? And they're not as good for them as an animal fat.
Let's see.
Dwayne soaks his oats in water and apple cider vinegar for 24 hours. That's a good idea. Help soften them up a little bit and makes them more digestible.
That's never a bad thing. Have you ever used poke root in the water? Is it similar to walnut holes?
I don't know about poke root. I haven't learned that one yet. It may be. I'd have to look it up. I don't have an answer for you, John. I've been using black walnut hulls, for pretty much all livestock and poultry now for close to 20 years. Had excellent results with it. So anything that's really high in tannins is going to do the trick. If somebody lived in an oak forest, getting a bunch of acorns. Actually, if you can get oak sawdust, from where they're sawmilling oak, black oak, chestnut oak, red oak have higher tannin content. So you could actually soak that out and make a slurry and soak the tannins out of it. And it would, you could use that as well. I don't know about poke root though. Sorry.
Kitku says he's wondering about the benefits of medicinal fruit from the tree called morinda.
Yeah, I wonder if it's morinda or moringa.
I don't know, but I've heard you talk about medicinal fruit from different trees before.
Yeah, moringa is awesome, right? And so if he mistyped it, I know moringa, and I learned about it from folks in Africa. Has some outstanding. It has really the key behind moringa, and some of the other Caribbean islands has a product called lucerne that grows there. But moringa is extremely high in vitamins, vitamin A for one. So it gives you, I don't know if it's giving me medicinal purposes or if it's giving me just a better immune system push, with all the extra vitamins that are in there. But I know moringa. I don't know morinda citrifolia. So I'm going to have to look that one up.
Let's see here. What about goat milk? You ever use that for the birds? Real non-processed, straight from the goat milk.
Yeah, goat milk's great.
Yeah, I mean, that would be that would be better or just as good as using raw milk. But not everybody has access to that. Daniel, the red pills are on the website. And I'm still having a hard time keeping the red pills flowing steady. So until that gets worked out, the green won't be coming back. But once that is worked out, then the green will come back too. I'm still trying to get registered with the people that are also in charge of the mail to get one of those machines to do that. Let's see. Dwayne says training puppies are easy if you keep them occupied, never let them get bored. Yes, that is definitely true. Julian says, if you got a man fighter, introduce him. If you got one of those and you introduce the dog to it might fix the problem.
Yeah, he said he has one, so.
Yeah, Peter's got a Doberman, never has a problem. And it will help condition them too. Once they start playing nicely,
keeps them moving.
It keeps them moving. Let's see here. Got some others. I feed the red bag, a breeder and developer of Big V feeds, a little dog food, Diamond Natural, Show Pro, and Healthy Coat horse oil to bind it all. What could I feed better than this and maybe a little less money? Toss
Well,
out the healthy coat horse oil because that stuff is very expensive. Like
yeah,
that stuff's really expensive. Coconut oil or olive oil would serve the same purpose.
yeah, or tallow or lard
Yeah.
if you can get it. Yeah, I don't, you know, I don't, I'm not a fan of dog food. So I'm just going to be, Colton, I'm going to be, you know, 100% honest and upright with you. But me and dog food don't get along because it's made for dogs and not for chickens. And
The
I
vitamins
think,
are way different.
right. So, you know what? If you send me a tag on that Big V breeder developer, which I think is an 18%, he really doesn't need the dog food. Probably can do it with just the Show Pro if he feeds it every day like it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
and but if he sends me a tag, I'll take a look at it, and um, I I would sooner just add a little extra fish meal to it, right, and call it a day, because the benefits he's getting out of or meat and bone meal, fish meal, meat and bone meal,
Yeah.
is really that meat protein that's in the dog food. You know, that's making the difference.
Yeah. Because I don't think Big V has, but there's quite a few companies that don't really have a meat protein anymore.
Huh.
They're trying to maintain their price.
Well, some of it's coming back, so
Can
yeah,
you use
Austin.
wheat germ?
Again, it's overpriced, but yes, you can use wheat germ oil with the Show Pro. So
If you use 2 pounds per hundred of vegetable oil, would you use the same amount of lard?
yes, sir, same amount, exactly the same amount. So
Dwayne made a discovery the other day that Dollar Tree now has apple cider vinegar with the mother for $1.25 for 16 ounces.
that's pretty amazing. So
I thought that was pretty cheap.
it is. Look hard at that label and make sure that it's true apple cider vinegar. Because in my neck of the woods, Dwayne, they're using other, like they'll use grape juice and some apple, and they'll make a vinegar out of it. And as long as they dangle an apple in it, they can call it apple cider vinegar. But coming to find out that a lot of it's coming from grape juice that doesn't make the grade for making wine or other purposes, right? So seconds on the grape. So are
Oh,
we?
Jeff,
Yeah,
this is your favorite right here. I know you're gonna love it.
styrofoam?
No,
Uh, no,
close.
no catfish food either. So we're taking a half-ass route around town. So let's just not do that, right? Just get some real fish meal or some real meat and bone meal, right? If we need it, and add it to it. But so are we having a issue with our feed? XF says, "Why do you both talk like you're developmentally disabled?" I don't know. Anybody else notice it? Log back in XF, see if it's still the same.
Let's see, 100% apple bottles in Wisconsin.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good deal.
Y'all's take on CRD, is it in all game foul but only shows up when the foul's stressed?
That is my bet. Is you know as common as CRD is being carried by wild birds, wildfowl, rodents, rats, you name it. I would bet you that 90%, 80%, 80% of poultry flocks, period, right? Whether it's just backyard egg layers, game fowl, whatever, have a level of CRD. And if managed at a really high level, where they don't become shedders. So they have to get stressed, like, Mel Branch is saying, they have to be stressed
Yeah.
for the virus to flare up, come out of the hidden places of the bone mass, usually hidden towards the tail section or, along the spine, but hiding in the bone. And it'll come out and really take over the bird when you stress the piss out of them, right? And then, so if you don't stress them and you keep them well fed and comfortable, and you may never see it. And they don't shed it off, right? They're not, a bird can be a carrier, but if it's not shedding, it's not infecting another bird. Only when you see those symptoms, swollen head, swollen eyes, swollen wattles, whatever, rattly in the lungs, are they shedding at that point? Okay.
And I mean, me personally, I think that's could be said not just for CRD, but for a lot of diseases. A lot of them are dormant, and then once the bird gets really stressed, something pops out, whether it's CRD,
Merrick's.
Mattocks, coccidiosis,
Yeah.
any of those. If somebody says their birds have zero coccidiosis, they're lying. Um, it should be in a normal, healthy gut. It should be there.
Yeah. It's in your gut. It's in my gut. It's part of the whole plan, right? So
Let's see, we got time for a few more. Here we go. What about brewer's yeast for respiratory?
brewer's yeast is bringing B vitamins. So again, you're only pushing the B vitamins in there. I'd rather see you push the vitamin E and selenium if you can do it, and that you're going to get a better response out of it. You're probably seeing some sort of a response out of the brewer's yeast, but it's not really hitting the nail on the head, right? It's kind of going around the barn backwards.
um, Peter
What?
Chapman said that he vaccinated for CRD. He started doing that, and he don't have a problem with it anymore.
Yeah. And where he's at, it's everywhere, right? So they have modified live, and it's part of the vaccination program, and you're hitting them. Pretty sure you hit them twice. You do them as chicks, when they're young. But I thought that there was a booster on that as well to really get it under control. So, all right.
Let's
Got anything
see.
else in the queue?
I do not see any other questions.
All right.
Now, remember, folks, loyal 20%
Oil
off
20.
the Show Pro 10-pound or 40-pound, the red, the jitter juice, all that 20% off for the next 24 hours. If you don't watch it live and you catch it Thursday or Friday, use code Turkey10. That will be good all the way until Monday at midnight for Cyber Monday.
So I did a quick look on you messed me up there. So the Morinda, the noni, is an outstanding antioxidant and can be used for treating a lot of things, right? And intermodulary, so it can get things back on track. Look, Kiku, we don't have these things here, in the States, right? So noni is foreign to us. We don't get to live on a Caribbean island somewhere right next to heaven. So, but yeah, no, good stuff. Just don't give it every day, right? It's not okay. Anytime that you use an herb or a fruit or anything like that, if you use it too often, right, you lose the ability to use it as a treatment, right? So just keep it in your back pocket for when you need it. if you see the birds are off a little bit, something's not, they need a little, something's coming into the yard, and, go get you some noni and start treating the birds. And it's not going to take a lot. My quick read on it, this stuff is really potent and been used for hundreds of years on the islands for treating a lot of things. So good deal. What did you pop up there?
I don't remember. Someone was having an issue with the red, but I don't see why. Because it's in the, it's all, you should be able to.
Mew Mew Cat, he said he tried the Loyal 20 and it ain't adding. I'm trying to get some red.
Well, I know it worked for one person because I see they got really happy with their orders. That's a really large order that they took advantage of that 20% off. Folks gonna be busy in the warehouse.
That's all right. That's all right. Problem. Yeah, Austin, he put up my email address. You can get me that way. I'm pretty sure it's Jeff.Mattocks7. Yeah, you can pretty much get me. You can private message me at it's Jeff Mattocks 7 on Facebook. I'm not sure if there's a dot in there or not. You can check it out.
Let's see, is that?
It wouldn't paste, so.
I think that's all of them.
All right, we hit our hour. Had
Great show.
It went really quick. Holy shit.
Yeah. See you guys next week.
See you next week.
We would like to take a moment to thank our friends over at ShowPro Farm Supply for their generous sponsorship and support. Whether you're raising heritage poultry, show poultry, gamefowl, or other species of livestock, ShowPro offers custom formulated feeds and supplements to help your animals reach their full genetic potential. And they don't stop at livestock. They also carry Alumacoop's movable poultry housing, plus a full line of Fertrell farm and garden products, so your whole homestead gets what it needs to thrive. Check out ShowPro Farm Supply, where nutrition meets know-how.